Hey everyone, it is week 3 of the habit changing course and we have a lot to go over today. So if you're in the guides, you're going to see a whole lot of stuff. The first 2 weeks were a lot, they were a lot more simple than this one is going to be. The deal is that this week really builds on the last 2, and because we've taken a week each time to really get these new habits solidified in our minds and in our bodies and take the time to really pay attention to what's going on, they all build on each other. And this week we've got a couple different things. You're going to notice probably some discrepancies with the numbering. Don't let that throw you off. This is week 3. I think it's guide 4, but week 3, it doesn't matter. And what we're doing this week, we are focusing on eating more whole foods. Now, I really want you to make sure you're going through, if you're in this course, make sure you're going to the links in the guides and reading the articles. They're not very long. They're just like I'm talking to you, right? So the deal is with this one, what we're doing is we're not focusing on what we can't have. That has nothing to do with this. What we are going to focus on is now that we're drinking enough water, now that we are present at meals and we're in tune with our hunger cues, it's not rocket science. You know what to eat. That's the title of one of the posts, and it's true. Like, you know, if I told you what's better for you, what has more nutritional value, cookies or spinach, you'd know. Where are the quote healthier foods? The outside of the grocery store. Or the packaged stuff on the inside. You'd know, right? It's not rocket science. But this is not about what you can't have. This is not about restricting or any of that. Because you'll see in the blog post, or in the article, all diets do the same thing. And this is not a diet. This is about changing our habits, right? And getting in tune with ourselves and paying attention and really learning how to trust ourselves, that we can take care of ourselves, that we know how to eat, what to eat. And you know, that's all we need. So let me see, I lost my train of thought here. So all diets do the exact same thing. They all trick you into eating less. Whether you eat less of a certain food group and or maybe you're cutting out certain food groups altogether, whether it's intermittent fasting and that just narrows your window of time so you eat less because you can only eat it in a certain amount of time, whether you whether you count your calories, no matter what you do, they all achieve the same thing. So we're not focusing on what you can't have. What I do want you to do this week, you're going to focus on eating more whole foods. And on top of that, you get a 2 for this week. So this week you're also going to have a piece of fruit every day. I don't care what you eat. Tell me what your favorite fruit is in the comments, right? I like pears. I'm not really an apple fan. Apples are okay. Grapes are okay. Pineapple and strawberries, oh my gosh, my favorite. And I don't care if you put these in a smoothie, if you eat them by themselves. Fruit juice is not the same. We're talking about a whole piece of fruit, 1 every day, and get this, vegetables with every meal. Y'all might think I'm crazy. Yes, vegetables with breakfast. Yes, vegetables with lunch. Vegetables are not just for dinner. I know that sounds weird. When you think about it, it's not as difficult as it might seem. So, the goal this week is to aim for that. Just like your water target might have ended up being a moving target and you had to change, like, okay, I want to drink 4 liters of water. Maybe you found you could only drink 2 liters of water. Cool, great. If you've got to change your goal, it's your goal. You do what you want, right? I'm not here to tell you what your goal should be. So same with this. If you find a vegetable that you like, just eat it all the meals. That's fine. Don't be afraid to experiment. Go to the grocery store and pick up something you hadn't tried before, like, what's a rutabaga? Do I like beets? Have I ever had a parsnip? By the way, if you've never tried parsnips, go for those. But try to make when I say have a vegetable with every meal, at least one of those has to be a green one. Or should be a green one. I'm not sorry about the have to. It's very easy to go through our days, especially in the winter, with no greens, right? And before you run out and buy a supplement and it's like a greens powder and say, oh, I can't do this, try. And I want you to write down what was difficult, what worked, what do you like. right? So if we're looking at the guides, I'm going to read some of this. It's going to make a whole lot more sense. By the way, I really want to know how the last couple weeks go. Were you more successful than not? Did you fail more than you succeeded? How was it when you were trying to be present, and when it's time to eat, you were only eating? Were you able to put the book down? Were you able to not eat in front of the TV? Were you able to just eat, and when it was time to eat, just eat? Were you able to do that? Did you have any troubles with that? Any feelings come up or experiences and be like, this is difficult? Did you find out why it was difficult if it was? I know for me, being in the house by myself all the time gets kind of lonely and kind of boring, and so I'm liking that extra stimulation, but at the same time, it was kind of nice to step away from the screen, and it was difficult. I'm not going to lie. I had probably half and half. I was able to step away. Another half, I just wanted some, talk with people and whatever. So if this is not a perfection thing, so I'm curious, like, how did it work for you guys? Did you have times where you found it was difficult to eat by yourself? So what about the water? How are we doing on the water? Have we kept it up? Are we able to do both? So what were your experiences with it? But this week, if you're not ready to proceed down the path of adding a new habit, that's fine. There is no hurry. You do this at your own pace. That's why it's like 10 weeks. That seems like a crazy long amount of time. It does. But if you notice, like last week, you still just don't feel comfortable with that and you're not ready to add all of this on top of it, that's fine. You can make these as long as you want, right? So do this when you're ready and you feel like you have the other two really down to a habit. In fact, maybe that was my problem. I'm just reading the blog post now that I hadn't made the other two a habit yet. So today you're going to get 2 tips because they complement each other. I'm just going to read some of this post to you in case you're not able to access the post for whatever reason. So here you go. So I want you to focus on eating more whole foods. And it sounds simplistic, but really when you start replacing processed things with whole foods, when you start thinking, have I had fruit today? Have I had vegetables today? Do I have some meat I could eat instead? You start changing the way you think about structuring your meal. You look around your cupboard, fridge, or freezer and start looking for things without labels to make your meals. And I know for me, it's always easier. The thing with habits is so many times we just reach for what's simple. We reach for what's convenient, which is why, meal prep is a big thing. If you've got sandwiches already made, if you've got meals already prepped and ready to go, all you got to do is warm them up. I also know that some people really hate leftovers. So this is going to be fun to see what tips work for you guys. Personally, I love to make stuff like lasagna and cram tons of vegetables in there, like spinach, and some people put they puree carrots and put those in the sauce. I mean, I love extra onions and stuff, but then freeze it. I love to add extra protein into my lasagna by using, instead of ricotta cheese, I like to use cottage cheese, and then you just drain it. It's great. You can use lower fat. I mean, whatever. But then I like to cut it up and stick some in the freezer, and then it's like Christmas. I'm looking through my freezer going, what do I have? Hey, look, I got lasagna! Quiche. That's another. I got a high-protein quiche recipe I'll share with you. So, like I mentioned, all diets do the same thing, and I've got some people who are going to disagree with me about this. But the simple truth is this. All diets do one thing. They trick you into eating fewer calories than you need, and that's how you lose fat. Period. And it's not about cutting things out. There are no bad foods, okay? We need to stop with this. Let's stop categorizing food as good and bad. We're going to get into that, but I just want to plant that. This is not what should I eat. This is how we start figuring out what you should eat. So as I mentioned here in the post, I don't care what supplements you take, who's promoting it, or how many times you eat in a day. Whatever diet you choose, they all trick you into eating fewer calories. Eating whole foods does the same thing. A granola bar is typically 140 to 210 calories with a lot of sugar, additives, preservatives, and almost no nutritional value. 1 gram of fiber doesn't cut it. An apple has, depending on the size, about 90 calories, fiber, nutrients, vitamins, and water. It will make you more full than that granola bar. So there was a friend I was telling this to that didn't understand what whole foods really were. She said, I'll never forget this conversation. I'm just like, she really doesn't know. And that's okay. And if this is you, perfect. She said she understood, and then she said, well, what about breaded chicken tenders or raisins, et cetera, et cetera? So remember, I'm not telling you what to eat. I'm telling you to focus on whole foods, okay? That's our focus. A whole food is a food that doesn't come with extra ingredients. Chicken, apples, pineapple, lettuce, broccoli, oil, nuts, etc. all contain one ingredient, right? Raisin is technically a whole food, but because it's dried, it's lost the water content and therefore won't make you as full. It's also laden with more sugar. It comes in a box. Eat it if you want, but to make things simple, think about it this way. Fruits, vegetables, and meats should come from the outside edges of the store, not the inner shelves. So if it's shelf stable, or if it's got more than a couple ingredients, it's not a whole food. Cheese, milk and salt equals whole food. Breaded chicken tenders, that's wheat, flour, chicken, added vitamins, soy, salt, things I can't pronounce, equals not a whole food. Bread, again, look at the ingredients. While not bad, technically not a whole food. The point here is that you're not eliminating things that aren't whole foods. You're not. You can eat whatever you want, guys. Whatever. And at this point, you're tuned into your hunger cues. So now you know if you really want to eat that or not. You'll stop when you're full because you're paying attention. But you are basing your meals around whole foods. Okay? So I'm hoping that helps already. I know that kind of thing helps here. You have utter freedom to do what you want here. We're still going to change your habits, but this is going to be really interesting. Remember, we're going at this with the idea of fun, experimentation. What kinds of things are we going to discover? What have you found in the last couple weeks? We're just going to continue with that today. It's not, or this week, it's not about what we're going to take out, okay? So moving on, the tip of number 4 is to eat a piece of fruit. Speaking of fruits and vegetables, tip number 4 helps you achieve tip number 3, and I'm about to sneeze here. Hold on. One more. Excuse me. Okay, so eat a piece of fruit every day and have vegetables with every meal. So it's something we know we should be doing. It isn't rocket science, but because it isn't hard, we don't do it either. Just like drinking more water. So now this blog post I'm reading from has I wrote it a little while ago, but it's remarkable. I wrote this 10 years ago. It still rings true. And so I said, I was reading Dr. Mike Roussel's book, The 6 Pillars of Nutrition. And while I don't agree with some of it, mostly the eating multiple times a day, which Martin Berkham, among others, has disproven, and on a personal note, while I don't necessarily do intermittent fasting, I do tend to eat my first meal sometime between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. That was 10 years ago. I still do. Which helps immensely with my schedule being what it is, to focus on eating my foods later in the day when I can enjoy them. I prefer to enjoy my food rather than shove it in my face and leave. And I also have to take medicine first thing in the morning and can't have anything in my stomach for an hour afterwards, so it works really well. I also believe that sticking to eating multiple meals in one day can lead to obsessive behavior and rigid thinking, which can also lead to more bad habits, including compensatory behavior and eating disorders, and I know all about this from personal experience, which is exactly what I am not talking about in these posts. We're focusing on behaviors, lifestyle, not rules. So, if all that to say, for some people, they're grazers. They just love to eat smaller meals, and that's fine. To me, that just goes into I have to eat every 2 to 3 hours, and none of that matters. Okay, the nonsense I was talking about has to do with people going, "Oh, you got to stoke your metabolic fire, and you're going to go into a catatonic state," or not catatonic, but catabolic state, catatonic state. I hope not. You can go into a catabolic state. No, you're not. Okay, not in 2 hours. Your metabolism, y'all, your metabolism is not a static thing, but it doesn't fluctuate that much in that short of a time. Give it 24 hours. Give it a week, okay? Not 2 hours. Your metabolic fire isn't going to go out if you don't eat for 2 hours, let alone 6. You didn't go into muscle wasting overnight, okay? So please, anybody who still touts this nonsense, just ignore it. So, sorry, tangent time, but here we go. I digress. One thing that stuck out to me was this tip. Have a piece of fruit every day and vegetables with every meal. I mean, it sounds so simple, right? But what really happens is we say to ourselves, we'll do it, but we focus on eating dessert instead. And then we aren't hungry anymore. Or we're stuffed, or we substitute a granola bar, candy bar, chips, or whatever happens to be lying around instead, right? It's that thing about convenience. Fruit is cheap. I bought a 5-pound bag of apples the other day at Kroger for $3. And at this point, it was April, not apple season. Pineapples were 10 for $10, so you can't tell me fruit is too expensive. Same thing with vegetables. Most grocery stores will mark down produce when it gets close to expiration. I really wish Publix would get on this bandwagon. Like, tell me what your favorite grocery store is. When I wrote this, I was living in Florida, and Winn-Dixie does this, Kroger does this. Publix doesn't. They just throw it out and like, give me your old, your broken, your dying fruit and vegetables. They've got life left in my kitchen. But no. So anyway, they'll mark down produce when it gets close to expiration, and you can grab some major deals. I've walked out of the store with 10 bags of free salad before, because when they mark the bags of salad down and you pair it with a coupon, the bag ends up free or really, really cheap. So to break it down, ending it up here, this is where we are so far. Drink at least half of your body weight in ounces of water every day. Eat your meals without distraction. Focused on eating whole foods when it's time to eat. And have at least one piece of fruit a day and vegetables at every meal. Notice I did not say you can only eat whole foods. By all means, eat what you like. But if you're focused on eating those whole foods first, you might find that you don't want as much, or you may not want whatever else you initially wanted. That is huge, guys. That's so huge. So, AKA, you want a slice of pizza. Okay, but you know it's not very whole, and you have to have veggies. It's also the last meal of the day, and you haven't had fruit yet. So you make a little salad, top it with some strawberries and walnuts, drizzle a little olive oil and balsamic vinegar. Everything listed there is a whole food. And then eat your pizza. You probably won't eat 4 slices, maybe just 1 or 2. Point being, you'll want less, and because you're eating undistracted, you'll be able to pick up your fullness cues that much faster. So I probably ticked some of you off, and if so, ask yourself, why? We'll get to more of that next week. In the meantime, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please post in the comments, and if you haven't read the other tips in the series, they're meant to be read in order, so that's why we have them in the guides. So this has been a little bit long-winded this week, but it's really important to know that when we're focusing on whole foods, it's not to the exclusion of anything else. That whole experience with the pizza, have what you want. So I'm curious, like what are the things that you're catatonic I know, right? Catabolic. So what are the things that you're going to eat this week? Like, make a list of your favorite vegetables, favorite meats. Like, what do you have in the house? Currently, I have salmon. I have steak, which I can't eat. Darn it, I bought this. So y'all know, like, right around Christmas time, they have a lot of beef tenderloin. Well, Kroger had these little bitty guys, and I treated myself to one, and I stuffed it with... Oh no, I didn't stuff it. I put butter on it. Butter and garlic and so, oh my word, it was so good. I'm like, I got to go back and get another one. And of course now they don't have them. So I got the steaks, and then I had the accident, and so now I can't, this is still broken, so I can't put any force on, no steak for me. Anyway, I've got steak, I've got salmon, I've got chicken, I've got lunch meat, and lunch meat is not exactly whole. So it's whole, but it's got some additives. So, and I have some people who brought me some chicken salad, which I ate whole. Yes, it has whole foods. It's got grapes. It's got chicken. I'm sure they put a ton of mayonnaise. It's going to be what it's going to be since I can't cook right now. So those are the things that I have. I've also got a lot of soup. I've got broth. That's pretty whole. Excuse me. And this is my last bit of bone broth. So you know what's in that? Spices and broth. That's it. So that's my thoughts for you guys today. I really hope that helps out. And if you're looking in the guides, we're all on step 3 here. So step 3, and it's week 3. Eat more whole foods. It's guide 4. I know it seems like a whole lot, but all of these things are listed in the guides. And let's see, what was the other thing? Oh, and if you have disordered eating, I did put a link in here to Telemind. We all have a little bit of disordered eating to a certain extent, or we have experienced it at some point, or a different relationship with food that maybe we're not totally happy with. But what I mean here is like a really serious problem with food. So like I developed binge eating disorder out of response to feeling out of control in my marriage and being controlled, as well as rebelling against the diets that I'd been on as a figure competitor and being told what to eat and blah, 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 blah. So all of these can be really touchy subjects, so please don't hesitate to get help. Counseling is so helpful, and telehealth may be available. So I put the link to Telemind in there, and if you want a deeper dive, I'm going to show you some of these. So if you want a deeper dive into some books that can help you with disordered eating, if you are struggling with that, and I can totally relate, if you don't feel comfortable posting any of that in public, I totally understand. And if you just want to chit chat about it, happy to do that. Anything, and of course the main one that I had a couple of them, but I think I gave them to other people. So anything that Geneen Roth writes is really great, and these are some of them. Right, oops, this way. So we've got that way. The experience of compulsive eating, getting into intuitive eating, we're exploring the relationship between eating and intimacy, on the search for true nourishment. She's also got a book that I think is really aptly titled. It's called When You Eat at the Refrigerator, Pull Up a Chair. And it's funny, but like if you think about it, why are we usually eating at the refrigerator? And I'll get into this later, but just as a note, why are we usually eating at the refrigerator? It's because you feel probably anxious, right? Not always, but what sits with you when you think of pull up a chair? You're like, why would I do that? Well, comment what you think it is. But if we don't know what we eat, and we're not in tune with our own hunger cues, and we don't know, we're trying to meet a need that isn't food with food, we tend to eat a whole lot of things, okay? So notice I didn't tell you to count your calories, and I didn't say any foods are off limits or any of that. No, that's all fine. So if you find yourself at the refrigerator, pull up a chair. Give yourself time. Think about it like this way. Y'all notice how cats will always, no matter what they eat, they sit down and eat it, whether it's one morsel or a bowl or just like a morsel of kibble, right? They sit down and they eat it. Be the cat, right? So another one that is really good is this book. And I know it sounds funny. called French Women Don't Get Fat by Muriel, and I can't pronounce her last name, which is really kind of funny. But it's she's also got these really amazing recipes in here. But I just love in the beginning where it's like it helps you get back in tune again with your hunger cues and knowing that if you think about what the French eat, there's tons of calories and it's tons of fat, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, they just eat to enjoy. They're not so... It's just a different culture, right? So, and I really liked this because it got into that. It's like the French have really rich food, but they take their time in eating it. They enjoy it, right? There's something to be gleaned and learned from that. And then I've got a couple others that I don't remember off the top of my head, but they're all in the they're all in the guides here. So I really hope that you're able to get some good things out of that. Last thing I'm going to say, and this is in the last guide for this week, if you want to do one of these steps a day and just kind of work your way through, that's not a bad idea. The last guide this week says it's not about diet, it's about relationships. So we got 4 steps here. Focus on eating whole foods, have a vegetable with every meal, or at least most. Okay? Eat what you really want, And we'll get more into that next week. But also write it down, including the emotions you felt when you ate it, how hungry you were, and if you were satisfied. So you'll probably identify a pattern, and if you become more self-aware in the process, thereby eating less. Also, there's something more honest about committing to writing down every morsel, you know? So we have to establish that, yes, we can take care of ourselves, and we know how to eat, and it comes back to being present when we eat, really enjoying it, savoring it. Oh, and when you're full, it's okay to be full and not finish. You enjoyed it. Stop when you no longer enjoy it. Okay? So that's it for today. I really hope this has been helpful. Thanks for joining me, and I'm looking forward to your comments and your Thanks. You got me the steak, Mary Kate. Love it. Looking forward to your participation this week. I'm looking forward to seeing how it's all going for you, and hoping some good habit changes are coming out of this. And I will see you all soon.